is covering up something. I think he probably threw them out of the office and told them to get out, and then he called the press conference right afterwards, which was pretty awesome because he was like, look, I don't do cover-ups. I'm not trying to do anything. You can do what you want to do, or we can work, whichever one you want it to be. And he said that we had spent $35 million, 2,800 subpoenas, 500 plus witnesses, no collusion, no obstruction, and that he was, I think basically he's had about a bait of it, and he doesn't want to deal with them anymore. And he said he won't talk to them about infrastructure until they quit investigating and playing games. So the president scored one today for knocking out Democrat BS and moves on to the next activity because he's a working man, and unfortunately the Democrats are not working. They're just playing in the offices that they hold and not doing anything for you and me who pay their salaries. But let's get back on track because we do have a special Memorial Day show. I would like to introduce my guest, which is Major Emmanuel J. Littlejohn, who's also a special person to me. He's my husband. He's been in the Army for quite a while, and we're going to talk about that. But first, let's talk about Memorial Day itself. Memorial Day is not just a Monday holiday that you get a 3-day weekend. It's not just the beginning of the summer season or time for a picnic or cookout. Even though that does happen, Memorial Day is really a solemn holiday, and for a very good reason. Memorial Day began on May 5th in 1868, 3 years after the end of the Civil War. It was created to honor the lives lost of both men and women who died while serving in the nation's armed forces. From 1868 to 1970, Memorial Day was celebrated on May 30th. It was later changed to the last Monday in May. President Lyndon B. Johnson declared Waterloo, New York to be the birthplace of Memorial Day. And for that reason, I have my guest here. This Major Emmanuel J. Littlejohn is retired, but he would like to give you some ideas of his service and the holiday itself. So thank you for being here, and thank you for your service. Why don't you tell us when you entered the Army and a little bit about your time served?
Well, I was 17 years old, and I decided to join the Army during the Vietnam War. And in that time, I went through training, as basic training in what do they call it?
The IT or
AIT as far as communication. And me being a Cherokee, they thought that I could speak the language. I can't, so they decided to put me in an infantry unit. Well, I ended up as an RTO, a radio telephone operator in the field, and machine gunner. And for my 18th birthday, that was my 18th birthday, they gave me orders to go to Vietnam. So that was a congratulations for me.
Happy birthday to you from Uncle Sam.
Anyway, while I was over there, I was attached to a unit where we stayed out in the field all the time and walked through the jungle doing whatever we had to do. And I was cross-trained as a combat engineer and an explosive expert, and working with the LRPs.
And what's a LRP?
A LRP is a long-range reconnaissance patrol team that goes out to investigate and gather information of the enemy, and if necessary, either take out the enemy or bring the information back, or call in an artillery strike or something like that to take out the enemy. So they have a number of functions, and all the special operators, that would be Rangers, as I was later on when I went back. You have Marine Force Recon, you have Navy SEALs, you have the Air Force PJs, and they all serve the same purpose of going and gathering information, taking out the target, or snatch and grab, one or the other.
And what's a snatch and grab?
If there's a high profile target, they'll go ahead and grab this individual and bring him back in for interrogation.
How many tours of duty did you serve in Vietnam?
Well, 2 tours. The first tour, that was in '69, and I did that until '70, and then I went back to the United States. I went to Ranger training and airborne training, and I went back, and they assigned me to Camp Eagle. and the TDY from the 2nd Ranger Battalion to work with the mountain yards to show these guys what I learned from the mountain yards about the survival.
What's a mountain yard?
The mountain yards are the indigenous people of Vietnam. They're like the Indians here in the United States. They knew more about how to read a trail and how to tell where the enemy were and what you could eat, what you couldn't eat, what vegetables, vegetation you could use for medicine or food, what to avoid, and, information that was very necessary for the people who were in reconnaissance. And like again, I was supposed to bring this information back and go ahead and give this information as a class to the LERPs that were going out in the field. And these LERPs work as a 5 to 7 man team, fire team, doing whatever needs to be done, bring back the information so that the higher ups can do whatever needs to be done.
So you say you went, in between tours, you went to ranger training. Where did you take your ranger training?
The ranger training was at Fort Benning. And at Fort Benning, you go through the initial aspect of it, and then the other training areas would be Dahlonega, Georgia, and Anglin Air Force Base for jungle training. And then for, later on, you go to Panama and Coca-Cola for advanced jungle training. In my situation, after I finished all my training, I asked to go back to Vietnam because my brother, he was there at the same time I was. He told me that engineers were the good outfit to get into. Well, I didn't get into the engineers. I already had a taste of that. Mine sweeping every morning, going out and sweeping the roads for mines, and had guys on either side of you watching out for snipers to make sure you didn't get shot because the Viet Cong liked to shoot at the sweeper team sweeping for mines and booby traps.
Yeah, that sounds pretty hectic. So you were out with is it like a metal detector?
Yeah.
It's like a metal detector, and you go and you're looking for the mines. What happened when you found one?
Well, you got to get down in your belly, tell everybody to clear the area, and try to defuse it as best way you can, depending on what type of mine they use. Sometimes they use 105 rounds and rig it up as a booby trap, or they'll actually, when I was in Vietnam, they had a civilian contractor unit there building the roads there. They would lift up the asphalt, move it out of the way, and then they would plant regular landmines in there and then put the asphalt over there so that the traffic would pass over and boom, blow up. It was a very nerve-wracking position because the mine could be booby-trapped. So while you're up there trying to defuse it, you got to look around for wires or anything else around and hope that somebody don't take a shot at you. Then we had other situations when I worked with engineers. We had to build Bailey bridges under fire, connecting, gorges or what have you to get some of the equipment across because the bridges either been blown up or washed out, one or the other, and you got to get the equipment across. Then they came up with the I can't remember the name of it, but it's a tank that launches a bridge to go and close gap, but some of these gaps are too wide for something like that. But being in the infantry as a combat engineer, that's a very hard life. It's a very hard life.
You did take some of your ranger training in Dahlonega, Georgia, correct?
Well, that was the mountain training aspect of it. All you do there is land navigation and then rappel off the side of a cliff and do different types of maneuvers. And everybody takes a turn. It's a rotation in leadership, so everybody takes a turn in leading the squad that is going through all of the briars and the bush and the swamp and anything else. And Anglin Air Force Base, it was even worse because you're going through water up to your neck. And I don't know. I think that now they changed it. They do desert training now somewhere. I have no idea. I've been out of touch for quite some time.
What, other than Vietnam, were there any other wars or police actions that you were involved in?
Well, when I got out of the Army in '82, I still was under status of what they call
Reserve.
When you get out of the military, you still got reserve time left. And so if you have a special forces or something, special MOS or something like that, they will call you back in. So they called me back in to go to Grenada. And we went into Grenada.
What was the objective in Grenada?
Well, there was a bunch of Cubans there that were supposedly getting ready to set up airstrips to attack the United States. And I can't remember the code names of the operation now. And the idea was certain teams of special forces, and that includes all special forces, going in and taking out the airport and different strategic points, and rescuing the students that were being held in certain areas. My particular team was to knock out the planes at the airport. It was bad. The Army is supposed to be in charge of that, and it really was almost messed up. It was chaos. Things didn't go planned like they should have. But we came out on top doing what we had to do, complete our mission.
Because you had too many people trying to be in charge?
Exactly. Well, everybody knows through history, we had Army first. Before we had any other branch of service, there was a Continental Army. And when they started having a Marine force and a Navy, there was certain people in the Army that was assigned to the Navy as Marines. And so their names changed. That's how all that stuff started. And as far as whatever operation goes on in any theater of operation and war, it's always the Army that's the top person of people that are running the show. A good example is when World War II was going on, you had two theaters of operations. You had one in the Pacific and one in Europe. Europe, it was Eisenhower, and in the Pacific, it was MacArthur. And it's been that way ever since. And even Desert Storm, you had an Army General, Schwarzkopf, in charge of what was going on there.
Right.
And it's still that way to this day.
So as a ranger, how did you get to Grenada?
Well, Grenada, we came in by plane. And we jumped out of the plane, and as we were coming out, they were shooting up at us. So that's the first time I got to really feel what it was like for the guys in 101st and 82nd when they jumped out of the planes into France during World War II. And it's pretty bad. It's, when you're coming out of a plane and people are shooting at you and you can't do anything, and you're hoping that they don't turn your parachute into a streamer.
Because of the what kind of
tracer rounds?
Tracer rounds, which like they'll flare up.
Well, the tracer rounds are a marker round every fifth round coming out of a automatic machine gun, and it's to show that the person who's doing the shooting where their bullets are going. And if they're shooting up at you, your parachute is a big target, and that's what they're shooting at. And so the tracer is hot, so it's going to set that thing on fire, and then so you come down like a Roman candle.
Ooh. We'll come back in just a few minutes after the break and talk a little bit more about Major Littlejohn's experiences in the Army. And so now we'll go to our station break.
Hello, my name is Chad Watkins. I'm the manager at Larry's Body Shop. We are a family-owned and operated business and have been serving the North Georgia area since 1978. We are located at 1216 Progress Road in LOJ, Georgia. Our shop specializes in collision repair, and we work with all major insurance companies. Larry's Body Shop is ICAR Gold, the highest role of training recognized by the collision repair industry. It is estimated that only 10% of collision shops meet these standards. Our shop consists of state-of-the-art equipment such as laser measurement system, down-drive spray booth, spot and MIG welding equipment. All of our paints are mixed on-site so that we can guarantee your paint to match every time. I know that having an accident can be a stressful event. We take pride in making sure our customers are satisfied with the repair of their vehicles. Our waiting area is clean and comfortable with free Wi-Fi and refreshing beverages. So if you're in an accident, stop by and see us at Larry's Body Shop.
Hi, I'm Rhonda the Mattress Lady, and this is my husband Gary, owners of Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart.
And we want to earn your business. From the time you walk in our door to the time we deliver your new mattress to your door, you will see the difference. Our selection and prices are the best in North Georgia, and customer service is our top priority. So y'all come on in and let us help you find the right mattress at the right price. That's Mattress Overstocked in LJ next to Walmart.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and Ellijay, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World. In 1981, Reed Nicholson began selling tires out of an old barn in Mineral Bluff. Little did he know that he had just laid the groundwork for the most trusted names in automotive services in the Blue Ridge area. In 1997, Nicholson Tire Center became what it is today, holding the same values of faith, family, and great customer service. 2 locations to serve you, and the Blue Ridge location is currently expanding to offer fast service and the largest U-Haul provider in Georgia. Nicholson Tire Center, Blue Ridge, and Mineral Bluff.
We're back with the Freedom Zone, where we're setting the truth free and talking about Memorial Day, and we're here with Major Emmanuel Jeffrey Littlejohn, and he's going to give us a little bit more information about his career in the Army, and then we'll go on to what Memorial Day means to him and to others like him. Now, I understand you were part of the objective in Panama to take out Noriega.
Right. We had gotten a word that Noriega was losing his mind. And so they decided that we needed to go in there and take this guy out.
Because initially he was supposed to be an ally, is that right? He was supposed to get rid of the drug cartel people for us, and instead he just killed his competition and went on with his bad self doing his own thing.
Well, every team had their own objective, and mine, again, was to go in by plane, drop by parachute, again, getting shot at. When we hit the tarmac, immediately we had the SEALs on our right, working with us in tandem to go and knock out his escape route. And
his escape route was the
planes,
the airport,
and blew up his planes and to disable everything as much as we could. And they had other teams that went after him and some of his army. But I can say this: that too was unorganized, and I thought they learned a lesson, but evidently not. But we did carry out the mission accordingly and were successful in it. God was on our side, is all I can say.
And what did Noriega do to save himself?
Oh, he stayed in a church.
Holy ground.
He's looking for sanctuary in a church, and the Army has a communication system set up where they play heavy metal music, and they were blasting the church so hard that the walls were rattling, and the people inside that was in charge said, "Hey, you got to go, because it's tearing this place apart." And he finally dressed himself up in a uniform, tried to look real cool, like I'm the king of the world. And when he got out there, they slapped him to the ground and arrested him.
Put the cuffs on him, did they? And he is doing what now? Serving?
Well, he's in prison right now. He's in a federal prison. I haven't heard any more about the guy. But they need to go after some more people, but that's another story.
They did call you when the Boston bombing, the marathon bombing.
I'd already retired, and I'm 60 years old.
At that time.
And I'm still on the list to being called back in again to do something. And I told him, says, wait a minute, you got to take me off this list. And I says, I'm 60 years old. I'm out of it.
Right. So that was the last time you heard from him as far as going to take somebody out in a bad way?
Well,
Not to dinner.
the thing about it is that you got a lot of bad guys out there that are trying to destroy this country, and I think that it's out of our own interest to be very vigilant, because not everybody out there cares about us. Even though we dole money out, the taxpayers are doling money out through the politicians to these different countries, they don't care. And when you go and they had a Marine
Excuse me.
that was getting ready to come back, and he asked the people over there in Afghanistan that worked with him if it would be all right for him to stay there. They said that if he stayed there, they would torture him and kill him. And I said, wait a minute.
People in the town,
What?
right?
Right. And I said, why would they do that? And they said, we don't like Americans, we just want your support.
Well, thank you so much for that. Huh. Well, let's go on to something else that's important to us, and it's important to Manny, I know. Can you tell me why Memorial Day is so important to you personally as a retired service personnel?
Well, I'll tell you, being in combat is a 24-hour horror show. And anybody that says that they have gone through all this and it doesn't affect them, they're wrong. That's why when you deploy soldiers over and over and over again, it's a continuous horror story, and then you want them to be normal when they come back. It doesn't happen. I served 2 tours in Vietnam, almost a year in Panama and Grenada, and I'm affected by it. And I'll tell you right now, when you see people that you've trained or people that you've worked with, wounded or dying, and you never see them again, you don't try to make new friends. And this Memorial Day to me is not just a memorial in recognizing the people who have sacrificed as far as dying, but also the ones who are living who have to live with this for the rest of their life. And this means something to me because I know people that I was very close to that never made it back, and there's some people I knew I don't want to know if they ever made it back because it just messes with your head. That's it.
Because PTSD is a real thing.
It's real. I thought it was fake, but when I had an episode of a flashback, I knew right then and there I was messed up.
And you have nightmares.
Well, they're not going to go away.
And yes, and he's not the only one, and it's something that needs to be addressed, and people need to understand it's a very real thing. Where will you be attending Memorial Day service this year?
Well, being I'm a Cherokee, I go up to the Cherokee Reservation up there in Cherokee,
North
Carolina. And my wife and I are going up there again. I was going to the one up in Black Mountain because I think that one is very beautiful. And I like the way the ceremonies are. And I feel an air of spirit in me being lifted when I go to the one up in Cherokee because it's sacred ground. And I like that ceremony up there. But to me, Memorial is not a day of celebration, but it's a day of mourning.
And remembrance. It's time to remember those that have given some or have given all. You can find out, every town will have a Memorial Day service. You can call your Chamber of Commerce and they'll give you the time and location in your particular town. The one in Cherokee, North Carolina will start at 11 a.m. and it'll be in the War Memorial area of Cherokee, North Carolina. And we hope and encourage you to go to one of these. And remember, we live very well here in the U.S. We are very, very blessed, and we have opportunities that no place else in the world has. Even people who are the poorest of the poor here live better than places like you've been to 26 countries, right?
I've been to 26 countries in all 50 states. And I'll tell you, a lot of the things that I see going on right now is I've never seen in my life. I've never seen the things that are going on. This is supposed to be the United States of America, not the divided states of America. And
Absolutely.
And I want people to get together and stop this petty bickering over party ideologies.
Precisely. It is, if anyone remembers 9/11, we were probably the most united people in the world. I stood and held hands with people I didn't know while we prayed, and go to church and everybody was holding hands, praying and crying. You think about the people who died in that. That was almost 3,000 people on the first really attack on American soil. And these people are gone, and you need to remember that the people that perpetrated this attack are not our friends. I don't care how much money the previous administration gives to them. They're not our friends. They're never going to be our friends. And as Manny had mentioned before, it doesn't matter how much money we give these people. They're not on our side. We have to remember what happened. We cannot forget. It's just it amazes me with some of the vitriol and crazy talk is what it has to be called out of like Hollywood and the Democratic Party, Nancy Pelosi, about if we just hug everybody and give them Cheerios, everything's going to be great.
That's not going to work.
No, because these people don't care for us. They like our money, but they don't care for us, and we've seen that demonstrated many times. Unfortunately, it's spread not just where people say in the Middle East are killing each other. They're killing people in France. They're killing people in England. They've got suicide bombs going on. So a lot of people have given all, and they didn't necessarily sign up for it, because a serviceman like Major Littlejohn, he will sign a check, basically a blank check, up to and including his life for the service of his country. On 9/11, it was people like you and me going to work. Good, honest, upstanding, hardworking people going to work, and that was their last day on earth. So we need to remember not just our fallen in the service, but also the fallen in 9/11, and also the fallen in other terroristic attacks, because it's unreal. We are having a great time. It is the start of summer, and everybody's going to go to a barbecue or a picnic, but take a few minutes, take an hour out of your day to go and bow your head and pray for those who have made our chance to have this barbecue or picnic possible, because it didn't come free. And not only did they pay when they were in wars or they had the traumatic experience, they pay every single day of their life. Every single day of their life is a horror show. And I know they wake up screaming, they have nightmares. So give everybody the benefit of the doubt. If they've lost their temper or they're in a bad, acting out or whatever, you don't know what kind of hell they're going through, especially ex-service people. And we want to thank them very much today. And we thank you for joining us. If you have any comments, you can go to my Facebook or my Twitter or email. Send me any comments you'd like. I'd be more than happy to discuss that with you. Or if you have an idea for something you want to talk about on this show, we're always open for ideas, always looking for ideas of things that would be pertinent. I especially am very sympathetic to veterans and their causes. So that will wrap up today's show with Freedom Zone, where we're going to set the truth free, whether you like it or not. And we want to give out big hugs and kisses to President Trump for putting his foot down and saying, enough,
Right on.
I've had enough. So that'll be all for this week. Please join us next week for our other shows.